Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very, very well. So as always, we have a ton of WWE news stories to get into today. And I want to start off with the Twitter exchange regarding Ricochet and Io Shirai yesterday on social media. Because man, oh man, did this get people talking. And it's a subject that I find so fascinating because for some reason it's really polarized people. That's not a bad thing. Of course, I'm all for understanding other people's points of views and other people's opinions. That's what this channel is about. It's about expressing opinion, discussing it, trying to get other people's opinion, all that kind of stuff. That's what this channel is about, and not having to worry about people going off at each other or anything like that. So Ricochet, he deleted a tweet yesterday talking about Io Shirai after a backlash from fans. Now, Ricochet went viral yesterday on Twitter after he deleted a tweet he made during an exchange with a WWE fan on Monday night. Now, this exchange began after the Raw superstar responded to an official WWE tweet that asked fans to name the best high flyer in the company right now. Ricochet responded, quote, "There is literally no one who can do what I do and how I do it, but I'll let y'all discuss." So I have no problem with that tweet. That's confidence, that's self-promotion, that's someone trying to get themselves over, that's someone believing in their own abilities. Don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But it carries on, because a fan at ADTR 19961 responded to Ricochet and wrote, quote, "Because there's more than one style of high flying, sir." Now, Ricochet wrote back to this and said, quote, "And none are as good as mine." And this was followed with a shrugging emoji. The fan then name-dropped NXT superstar Io Shirai, writing, quote, "Touche, in that aspect I can agree, but Io Shirai is also a phenomenal high flyer as well. She's the best at what she does," and then showed a woman shrugging emoji. In the now deleted tweet, Ricochet wrote back and said he can do anything, or everything rather. Shirai can, probably better, but she can't do what he's capable of, maybe not even half of it. This is what he said, and you can see it on the screen. He said, quote, "I'm not saying she's not amazing, she 100% is, but I can do everything she can, probably even better. She can't do what I'm capable of, maybe not even half." Now, this tweet was soon deleted due to backlash from fans. The fan continued tweeting back and forth with another fan today, noting Ricochet has, quote, "huge potential that WWE puts a cap on," adding that his best work was before WWE. Ricochet responded with a folding hands emoji. That ended the initial exchange, but another fan responded to Ricochet's original response to the WWE tweet and took shots at him. The fan wrote, "A shell of his former indie self and be a jobber with a middling career with no upward mobility and afraid to leave the security of WWE." Ricochet responded, "Man, I bet you felt real good when you were typing this." Ricochet has worked main event matches for the most part of this year until his non-title United States Championship loss. It wasn't for the United States Championship, against Sheamus on Sunday during the WrestleMania Backlash kickoff show. He then lost another non-title match to Sheamus on Raw this week. It was teased, though, that the Ricochet and Sheamus feud could continue in the coming weeks. So there's a lot to break down here. First of all, the tweets when he responds to the official WWE tweet saying that he's the best high flyer and nobody can do what he does. Again, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't have a problem with that. And I think this is where people are slightly getting confused here, because I responded when I saw the tweet that was deleted. And I said that it feels like the textbook definition of an inferiority complex, in that he feels inferior, or he hates feeling inferior to someone else, and he has to tell everyone how good he is. If someone says, "Well, I think Io Shirai is just as good, she's a great high flyer, and there's different kinds of high flying," he goes, "Well, I'm not saying she's not amazing, but I'm better. She can't even do what half I does. I can do everything she does and better. She's not even near me. She's not even on my level," all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, why do you feel the need? Really, why do you feel the need? And again, an inferiority complex of the slightest bits. Someone says someone else has got an opinion that they might be better than you, or they might be. I mean, it doesn't even say that she's better than. It doesn't even say that Io Shirai is better than Ricochet in the tweet, but immediately goes, "No, she's not even on my level. Nowhere near me. I'm better." And it's like, okay, calm down, mate. Jeez, you don't need to. Again, and this is the confusing thing for me when it comes to this tweet, and this is why I think it's polarized a lot of people, is people have responded to this as, come on, he's just trying to put himself over, or he's just trying to be, it's just self-confidence, he's just feeling himself, and we shouldn't criticize that. And I'm not criticizing that aspect, in the same vein that I have no problem with that first tweet that he says that I feel like I'm the best and that's it, but you can have your opinion. And yet someone does have an opinion and he fires straight back at them saying, no, nowhere near, not even close. Why do you feel the need? Really, why do you feel the need to tell everyone that? It's just it's stupid, and I don't get it. I really don't understand it. And again, I was shocked. But not only by him feeling the need to tell everyone tell a random fan on social media and his whole following, he's better than Io Shirai. That to me seems really odd. You should take a closer look at yourself. Again, inferiority complex of, okay, man, someone thinks that someone might be better than you and you feel the need desperately to tell them that they're better, that you're better. Again, a massive inferiority complex to me. Huge. And I don't want to bring like gender into it or anything like that because I don't think it's fair and I don't think that was Ricochet's intentions. But again, my thought process is, why really do you feel the need to defend yourself to a random fan? First of all, let your in-ring work do the talking, and I think it does with Ricochet. And look, I've been critical of Ricochet's presentation by WWE. I think he's capable of much, much better. Obviously, he is. He had success in NXT, had massive success on the independent circuit, and he should be used better by WWE. That's without question. He's incredibly talented, and there aren't many people that can do what Ricochet does. I think that's a widely known opinion, apart from those in power in WWE. Everyone knows what Ricochet is capable of. The only people that don't are Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, and they're the most important people in WWE right now. Everyone else knows, so he doesn't have to feel the need to tell everyone on social media when it comes to Io Shirai. I mean, again, if he wants to tell everyone I'm the best on social media when it comes to this high flying, great. Again, self-confidence. I love it. Put yourself out there. Believe in yourself. Have a bit of self-belief. It's so important nowadays. But then someone says, I think Io Shirai is great, doesn't even infer that Io Shirai is better, just says that Io Shirai is great and there's different kinds of high flying, and then immediately, well, she's nowhere near my level, I'm better than her. The arrogance. And again, why does that matter? Why do you have to respond? If you don't agree with it, if you haven't got something to nice, don't say anything at all. And I know people might say, well, that's ironical and you're saying that because you're criticizing him here. I am criticizing him because I don't understand the need to say that. And I think quite a few people within WWE and NXT felt the same because they were posting videos and clips and GIFs of Io Shirai all yesterday because, again, it feels a little bit... And maybe this is because when you're reading it, you're hearing it in a certain tone of voice and you don't know how he said it, but there does feel to be a degree of venom to that there, doesn't it? You know, capitalizing every letter on I can do everything she can, probably even better. It's like, whoa, man, back down. Again, again, it wasn't even inferring Io Shirai was better, just saying that she was good. And I know he says that she's amazing, but when did it become a massive, peeing contest between him and Io Shirai, she's not even involved in this conversation, and he's knocking her saying, well, I'm twice she is. And again, it's the inference of... she's had great success in NXT, but I'm twice as much, so I should have twice as much success. I mean, there's so much you could look into that. The best thing was, when I was talking about this on social media yesterday, is some of the responses I was getting, and to be honest, maybe I'm just the same as Ricochet, because I was responding. I don't like to bite on these kind of things, but the best thing was I said it smells of an inferiority complex, and then someone said to me, stop using psychological terms that you don't have any clue on. Well, not wanting to get too much into my background or anything like that, but unfortunately for that person, I have a psychology degree, which is first class with honours. So, I mean, I sound like Ricochet. The point being, I look at it, I go, why do you feel the need? There's obviously, talk about having a thin skin, and that's what it sounds like, an inferiority complex, a thin skin, the inference that someone else is a good high flyer, and I can do everything she can, and she can't even do what I can, and I can do everything she can, but better. Okay, whoa, someone struck a nerve. I'm all for believing self-belief, and I'm all for believing in yourself, and I'm all for saying that you think you're the best and you're the high flyer. But you don't need to put someone down. And that's what it kind of feels like. And even the start of it, I'm not saying she's amazing. Even that feels a bit passive-aggressive, doesn't it? I'm not saying she's amazing, but I'm going to tell you that she's half as good as me, and I'm twice as good as she is, and I'm capable of even better. Whoa, someone struck a nerve. It's like if you said to me, I mean, we do pro wrestling here on the channel, It's like if I go, I think I'm the best pro wrestling YouTuber out there. I don't, by the way, but I think I'm the best pro wrestling YouTuber out there. And you go, okay, Owen's got a bit of self-confidence, good for him. And then someone goes, I tell you what, though, I think Cultaholic's great. And they go, I'm not saying they're amazing, but I can do everything they can, twice as better. I'm way better than them. You'd be like, someone's got a thin skin, someone struck a nerve. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And Ricochet just needs to, pump the brakes, man. Let your work do the talking. And again, self-belief is one thing, but why do you feel the need to tell everyone you're better than Io Shirai? Just feels just odd, really odd. Anyway, let's move on. Speaking of odd, zombies. Yes, zombies are still being spoken about here on this channel because they're being spoken about still on social media because the fallout from all of this zombie stuff is still sweeping WWE fans across the world. Now, WWE Raw superstar MVP has called out fans for his perceived theory of their double standard, pointing out how they love The Undertaker, but they have an issue with zombies in pro wrestling. Oh dear, MVP, come on. You're better than that. You are better than that. MVP tweeted this on Tuesday, quote, I think zombies and wrestling are stupid. Also, ... Undertaker is the best. And then posted a load of laughing emojis. In another tweet, MVP called out the ridiculous hypocrisy of fans. He said, quote, I don't have to defend anything, just pointing out the ridiculous hypocrisy. Taker didn't eat people, but he was a dead man. He could teleport and shoot lightning. He was buried alive, but no, he didn't eat people. That's just too unbelievable. Oh, come on, MVP. Come on. You're better than that. You're talking apples to oranges here. You're talking apples to oranges here. Did The Undertaker have supernatural elements of his character? Absolutely. He was a dead man. He did shoot lightning out of his hands and he did get buried alive and comes back. That's fine. That was the Undertaker character. There is a supernatural element to pro wrestling that we have accepted over the years. But the difference is that the Undertaker fundamentally was a pro wrestler. And the reason why people were afraid of him, and the best way to justify this is that people kind of phrased it over the years, and WWE certainly presented it like this over the years, in that all of Undertaker's supernatural stuff was all mind games. He was the greatest mind game guy in the history of professional wrestling. All of that was supernatural stuff, but it kind of was like tongue-in-cheek. It's not actually real because it's mind games. And yes, there were things like being buried alive and set on fire and all that kind of stuff, but the reason people were intimidated of The Undertaker was because he was a dominating professional wrestler. He was nearly 7 foot tall. He was a multiple-time WWE champion. People were afraid of him because he was an unbelievable pro wrestler, and he had this presence that went with his presentation. I understand people looking at it, and comparing Undertaker to the zombies and Kane and Bray Wyatt and The Fiend and all that kind of stuff, but it's different. It is different. You didn't have The Undertaker popping up from the announce deck, and if people were running away from him, that's because The Undertaker could genuinely beat the hell out of them. These are zombies. It was connection with a film. The Undertaker's presentation had nothing to do with a film ever coming out or anything like that. It was just stupid. And the amount of people, again, trying to sort of justify this, and MVP, I would assume he's maybe being a company guy. We get this from time to time, don't we? We get this from, there are stupid ideas on WWE television, and then you get a WWE contracted independent contractor, not an employee, independent contractor come out and say, you just don't know what you're talking about. And it's, I understand you're trying to wave the WWE flag there, but come on, it was a bad idea. You can say it's a bad idea, or if you don't want to, you don't have to say anything. But to try and drag The Undertaker's name into this, going, well, you like The Undertaker? Well, it's different. It's different. And if you can't see it's different, then you're being brainwashed by the WWE machine there. And I understand you're trying to, look, he's the manager of the WWE champion. He's in a featured position in WWE right now. And maybe he feels the need to come out and defend the company. I don't know. But to compare it to The Undertaker and say that it's hypocrisy from fans, it's just, it's ridiculous. Now, on the other side of things, when I did the Chris Jericho story, on Monday, talking about his feelings about the zombie situation on Sunday, a lot of people pointed out, and I think fairly, saying that, well, you can say about the zombie stuff, but Jericho's in like a Mimosa Mayhem match last year. Again, maybe we're talking literally comparing apples to oranges there, but it's a good point. It's a good point. There's an element of suspension of disbelief, but I think MVP trying to compare it to The Undertaker, there are different reasons we liked The Undertaker and we hated the zombie situation. And if he can't see that, then I don't know. Speaking of the zombies, Bray Wyatt, he's commented on it as well. Bray Wyatt posted a tweet yesterday. He took to Twitter yesterday evening with a rare tweet, one of his few tweets since losing to Randy Orton at WrestleMania 37. Wyatt referenced the zombies used at the WrestleMania Backlash pay-per-view and asked fans if they miss him yet. Bray Wyatt tweeted, quote, "Miss me yet, #zombies." Now, of course, Wyatt hasn't been seen since the WrestleMania 37 loss to Orton. He did appear on the following episode of Raw, where he did a backstage promo, but that's been it. First of all, yes, Bray, we do miss you. Please come back to Raw and please make it a better show. Again, I know that people will look at this and, like I said, like the MVPs of the world, they will look at this and they will say, well, you like Bray Wyatt and you like The Fiend and you like someone that's got a split personality of a children's host inside the Firefly Funhouse, but this demonic side to him where he's the Fiend and he wears a mask and he rips people's hair out and he causes people to bleed from the mouth like he did to Seth Rollins, and he can come back from these injuries and manifest into the Fiend in any second. Yes, I know you're going to justify that and say, well, you like one supernatural element of one thing, but you don't like the other. Again, it's apples to oranges. In that people are intimidated by Bray Wyatt because he could kick their ass. He's a pro wrestler. And at the end of the day, he's a competitor in the ring. And you can justify a lot of stuff that he does as mind games because he's got a warped mind and a crazed individual. What you're trying to imply when it comes to these zombies is that they're going to eat you. Or that zombies just infiltrated. It's stupid. It is so stupid. If you try to justify it, you can't. You can't. It's stupid. And also, you have this in films all the time. I don't think necessarily people were criticizing the fact that they almost used the zombies. It's the way that they were used. I think that's really fundamentally the issue here. Like I said, my massive issue wasn't necessarily that they had the zombies surrounding the ring, but it was that they played it up like they were real. Like these zombies weren't random extras, or these zombies weren't people that they weren't actors or NXT superstars of the future or anything like that, that they were really in danger of being eaten. When you've got The Undertaker or The Fiend out there, there is a danger that they're going to beat the hell out of you. But they had this thought process or this perception that, we're going to be eaten. Adnan Burke, we're broadcasting from a safe situation here. I mean, come on, and don't try and justify it. And Bray Wyatt we're talking someone that's supernatural as anything. He's almost mocking it because he said it was stupid. So come on, you can't justify it. And even mainstream press, they're ripping WWE for it. Now, WWE received some negative mainstream media attention this week for the Zombie Lumberjack match at Sunday's WrestleMania Backlash pay-per-view. The New York Post ran a WrestleMania Backlash review with the headline that said, quote, "Zombie stunt at WrestleMania Backlash is one of WWE's saddest moments ever." The review continued to say that many will remember this pay-per-view for the, quote, "terrible and cheap plug zombies," which was a tie-in to promote Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead movie on Netflix, which stars former WWE champion and future Hall of Famer Batista. The sponsorship included Batista narrating the opening video package for the pay-per-view event. This is what the review had to say, quote, "WWE sure knows how to put a dampener on a good thing. WrestleMania Backlash continued the recent string of WWE pay-per-views filled with great matches and compelling stories, but many will remember this one for the terrible, cheap plug zombies. Thankfully, the actual wrestling was good enough to stop one of the company's worst ideas from truly dragging the show down into the muck." Again, you're getting mainstream press. You're getting mainstream press from how bad this match was. Mainstream press. And yet you've got people still on social media or MVP or people within the company trying to justify it. And that concerns me also, because if people like The Miz are trying to justify it, then you know that the people on the creative team, Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, whoever, will look at the negative reaction that the zombies got this past weekend, and they'll just say, they won't criticize themselves, they won't acknowledge that it was a bad idea, they'll just go, well, they just don't get it. We're just way too sophisticated for that audience. They don't get it, or they're idiots, they've got a double standard, it's hypocrisy, it's so much hypocrisy that they like The Undertaker, and they like Kane, and they like Bray Wyatt, they like The Fiend, but they don't like zombies. We're right, they're wrong. And it's funny because they're the same company. Vince McMahon all the time will always say, and Bruce Pritchard will say this on his podcast, they'll say it all the time, the audience are always right. The audience tell us the direction that way they want to go in. And the customers are always right, and the audience are the people that matter. The power is truly in the hands of the audience. And it's such a fallacy. It is such a fallacy. John Cena always says it all the time. Oh, you are really the decision makers in this company. You decide who gets over. Come on. I mean, yes, partially, I guess, true, but realistically, WWE shove people in the direction they want to go in. And it's the same with this. They can try and justify and say, we can try and complain about it, but it doesn't matter, because they'll just say, well, you're wrong. You're wrong. You just don't get it. You're not as sophisticated as you're hypocrites. Ah, do me a favor. Honestly, do me a favor. Now, speaking of the disastrous zombie lumberjack match, The Miz, of course, he has a torn ACL because of the match. Well, because of an injury that happened during the match. It actually had nothing to do with the zombies. It's just the worst match ever to get injured in. Now, The Miz reportedly received a lot of credit from WWE talent and officials backstage at WrestleMania Backlash for pushing through the injury to finish his lumberjack match against Damian Priest. It was reported that The Miz sustained a torn ACL during the match with Priest on Sunday in what is his first serious injury of his career in WWE. Now, Fightful Select, which of course is their Patreon service, be sure to check that out and subscribe. They do a lot of great work on there. They have spoken to a number of individuals who were backstage at WrestleMania Backlash who say they were watching the match on the monitors, and while they could tell something was wrong with The Miz, no one thought the problem was severe as a torn ACL. The 40-year-old has received a lot of praise backstage for getting through the match despite the injury and for pushing the bout to the very specific finish that had been booked. There's no official word yet from WWE on The Miz's injury. The former WWE champion was absent from Monday Night Raw, with his partner John Morrison dedicating the match to his tag team partner. So obviously, again, you could obviously, like the report says, you could tell something was definitely wrong. But the fact he managed to get through it is obviously very admirable. And like I said yesterday when we covered this in depth, you can check it out on the channel. It's a shame. It's a real shame that obviously he's got an injury and he's going to be out likely for the remainder of the year. One of the most durable and consistent WWE superstars of all time, and a true company guy. Like I said yesterday, just such a true company guy. The creative this guy was given for that match, and he made it. He tried to make it work, and despite the injury, he got to the finish he needed to because he's a company guy. And you have to give him major credit for that. So hopefully he has a quick recovery. I want to talk about Shinsuke Nakamura because he's done an interview with Renee Young and he's opened up quite a lot about his status in WWE and his thought process about this. Now, Shinsuke Nakamura has admitted that he feels he's still struggling in WWE and wrestling and is still waiting to have his true big moment with the company. Now, Nakamura was billed as one of NXT and WWE's biggest ever signings when he joined the company in 2016, and he had a highly successful run on the Black and Gold brand from 2016 to 2017. He was then moved over to the main roster in 2017 after WrestleMania 33 and went on to win the 2018 Men's Royal Rumble match, competing with AJ Styles for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 34, albeit unsuccessfully. Now, despite many WWE Championship matches, Nakamura is still yet to enjoy a run with one of the promotion's biggest championships, whether it's the WWE or Universal Championship. And the 41-year-old has confessed he still finds being in WWE and adapting to the United States as a challenge 5 years on from making his move for the first time. Now, Nakamura also revealed that he doesn't speak to WWE Chairman Vince McMahon much. This was on Renee Paquette's Oral Sessions podcast. He said, quote, "I'm still struggling in wrestling. Coming to the US and coming to WWE is challenging. I came to challenge myself. That's why I'm here. I'm waiting to find my timing and my moment. I don't pitch to ideas to Vince a lot. We talk after the match a little or before the match if he has an idea for my promo. I need to get used to talking to Vince." When asked if he still gets nervous about doing promos in WWE, Nakamura added, "Yes, still. Nowadays, they only give me a short line. For example, a famous joke. I don't know because I didn't grow up in the US." So it's a really interesting discussion and a really interesting and revealing interview, to be honest, that Nakamura does there. And I remember seeing a report a while ago, and I don't know how accurate this is, so I really don't know, but that Nakamura's status essentially in WWE at this point is to get other people over. And I think his booking does reflect that. Is Nakamura going to be the Intercontinental Champion or United States Champion again? I think there's a chance of that, and he's upper mid-card talent at this point. I don't know if we'll see Nakamura back in main events. I hope so. And I like the possibility of Nakamura getting the crown on SmackDown and becoming the official king of Strong Style. I like all of that. And I think that Nakamura can and should be presented better. And if the real concern is Nakamura's inability to convey himself in English, which I don't think is necessarily a problem, he speaks good English. He just has a Japanese accent. He can't do much about that. And it's Vince McMahon's insistence that everyone speaks perfect English. That's how you become a big star. It's not. It's not. You don't need to speak perfect English to become a big star. Look at the UFC fighters. Some that can't speak great English, but they're big names. It's ludicrous. You know, there are other countries apart from the United States, and it should be featured that way on WWE television. And if the biggest issue is that, well, maybe Nakamura isn't the best promo because of his accent or his English or anything like that, give him a mouthpiece, give him a manager. It certainly worked when he had Sami Zayn by his side. There's a plenty of people that are good talkers in WWE or in NXT. Give him a manager. So it's kind of this bizarre nature, isn't it, of WWE, of sometimes just one thing's wrong so they can't be used. Oh, Nakamura, maybe he's not the best promo or he's not the best whatever. Oh, he can't be used. Can't be used. Well, he can't cut a promo, so it can't be used. Why don't you try and fix the situation? It's the same. We spoke about Ricochet earlier. Ricochet, obviously, there is an issue with his promos. His promos suck. Now, obviously, he could improve on them, or maybe if they're just not going to improve, find a manager, find a mouthpiece. That's what they used to do back in the day, because there's certainly elements that they could make money with this guy, and it's the same with Nakamura. And it's very apparent, isn't it, that WWE felt that they tried with Shinsuke Nakamura. They had him win the Royal Rumble and had him have the match at WrestleMania with AJ Styles, and it didn't live up to expectations. I think that's possibly due to expectations were just far, far too high, and that's the fault of fans. That's the fault of WWE presenting it as a dream match, and maybe the talents themselves, AJ Styles and Nakamura, will also feel, you know what, we didn't live up to expectations. And it felt just coming out of that WWE kind of went, well, we gave you your chance, Shinsuke, and you didn't deliver. I guarantee if he went back to NXT tomorrow, he could be NXT champion very quickly. And maybe that's the best thing for him. Maybe he should go back to NXT and have success there. It's certainly done a lot of benefit for Finn Balor. And I found the interview was very revealing that this is a guy that won the Royal Rumble. He had a featured match at WrestleMania where he challenged for the WWE Championship, and he still doesn't speak to Vince McMahon that much. And he doesn't get given big promos anymore. Why? They give him short lines. Because they know his weaknesses, but they refuse to address them and actually help him overcome them. Which I think is staggering. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Raw ratings. The Raw ratings for this week's episode have come out. Monday's live post-WrestleMania Backlash it wasn't a Go Home edition. Who wrote this? WrestleMania Backlash edition of Raw, featuring the fallout from Sunday's pay-per-view with WWE Champion Bobby Lashley versus Kofi Kingston in the main event, drew an average of 1.823 million viewers on the USA Network. This is according to PW Torch. This is up 0.16 from last week's 1.820 million viewers for the WrestleMania Backlash. That was the Go Home episode. For this week's show, the first hour drew 1.790 million viewers, the second hour drew 1.932 million viewers, and the final hour drew 1.748 million viewers. This week's Raw drew a 0.48 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic. This is down 9.4% from last week's 0.53 rating in the key demographic. Now, we don't have the cable top 150 rankings for this week's Raw because Showbuzz Daily has been down since last Thursday, but last week's Raw was ranked number 1 in the cable top 150 with a 0.53 rating in the 18 to 49 key demographic. This week's Raw was essentially even in terms of viewership from last week's show, while the key 18 to 49 demographic was down 9.4%. This week's show drew the worst key demographic for rating for Raw since the December 14 show. So interesting, but this week's Raw viewership was up 3.8% from the same week in 2020, while this week's 18 to 49 demographic was down 5.9% from the same week in 2020. So again, we can look into that so many different ways. It's essentially flat. I mean, it's not really a lot to look into that. Raw just, again, maybe I was in the minority. I didn't think Raw was horrendous on Monday, but the bar is so low. That's the issue with Raw, isn't it? That whilst it wasn't horrendous, it still wasn't a good Raw. If you're going to compare it to Raws in the past, it's still not great. It's still a very difficult show to watch. It's still 3 hours, and it still is. Again, very difficult to watch, and a really long and laborious watch. And certainly, that closing angle of promising a WWE Championship throughout the entirety of the show and just pulling it, I'm surprised that everyone just didn't turn off the channel there, because what's the point? What is the point in watching? And it'll be interesting to see how that affects next week's Raw, because will people go, you know what, I'm not watching that? Because even if this week they say Kofi Kingston's going to be challenging Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship, even if they advertise that on SmackDown or social media or whatever, what reason do people have to tune in to watch it? Because they won't believe him. Last week you promised it and you didn't deliver. So what's the difference? There is none. So it's certainly going to be interesting with that. And finally, I do want to talk about NXT to finish things off here, because we have a new North American champion, because Bronson Reed won the NXT North American Championship last night on NXT. The NXT main event saw Reed capture the championship by defeating Johnny Gargano in a steel cage match. The match saw interference from Austin Theory, but that was not enough for Gargano to retain. Now, of course, this is Reed's first title reign since signing with WWE in January of 2019. Gargano won the title back at TakeOver War Games 2020 on December 6 by defeating Leon Ruff in a triple threat match, which also included Damian Priest. So great for Bronson Reed to get the victory in that one, obviously. I think there's a lot of talent in Bronson Reed. I do. I think he's got a real great presentation. I think his entrance is great. Obviously, he's a big guy, but some of the stuff he can do in the ring is pretty spectacular. The way he can move in the ring is fantastic too. So I'm really happy for him, and it'll be interesting to see what Johnny Gargano does next, because I've still been thinking that Gargano could face Karrion Kross at TakeOver in Your House, because they were teasing that a couple of weeks ago. And I did say, I believe it was on one of the news videos we did, that possibly getting the title off Bronson Reed puts Gargano into the conversation of facing off against Karrion Kross. The only thing he could say is, well, he just lost. How should he be deserving of an NXT Championship match? We'll have to wait and see. But great for Bronson Reed, and the NXT North American Championship being used for what it should be used for, elevating talent to the next level. So massive congratulations to Bronson Reed, and an interesting episode of NXT. It'll be interesting to see what the ratings say about that after last week was not good, of course. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of the news stories we've spoken about today? Talking about Ricochet deleting his tweet about Io Shirai, all of the zombie fallout, whether it's MVP, Bray Wyatt, the New York Post, people praising The Miz, Shinsuke Nakamura admitting he's still struggling in WWE, the rating for Monday Night Raw, and having a new NXT North American champion. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.